Don't look now, but the BYU Cougars have won their fourth straight in Big 12 play. They get the W over UCF, and Keba Keita ain't taking none of that crap.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day, and more importantly, thank you to all of you who are everydayers with us right here on your original daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. Special edition postcast coming to you as BYU takes care of UCF for their fourth straight win in Big 12 play, 81-75 in Orlando. And here's the deal, everybody. BYU right now looks like a team that is finding its rhythm at the perfect time. We just kicked off the month of February. This is the month where you make hay if you want to make the NCAA tournament, and BYU has now notched back-to-back Q1 victories with their wins this week. This is a team, once again, like I said, is finding its stride. It is putting things together, and the crazy thing is, you watched that game against UCF like I did, and it felt like in some ways BYU wasn't at their best, but all the same, they get the W, and I really think that Kevin Young has found a nice mix of what to work with his team, what works with his team is what I should say, in terms of the balance, how the lineups need to go. Guys that stood out in this game, Richie Saunders continues to be an absolute stud. 22 points, 8 of 14 from the field. More importantly, 6 of 9 from three. BYU as a team, by the way, shot 43.8% from three, and that's a big key as to why they won this game. But you also look at guys like Mawot Mag. Mawot was a guy who was glued to the bench earlier this season, finally got a chance to see his biggest playing time, it felt like, when they took on Wyoming at the Delta Center, had a good showing there. And Kevin Young said it after that game, I need to give him more opportunities. Well, good thing you did, because he responded in this game, 6 of 10 from the field, 3 of 6 from three, 4 of 5 from the charity stripe. Mawot Mag is offering something that we did not expect from him. He is known as a defensive stopper. And by the way, very, very good job by BYU shutting down the Knights' offensive, their offensive threats, essentially. Now, foul trouble also played into that. The biggest thing is Keyshawn Johnson really struggled with foul trouble, especially in the first half. But the bigger thing, not Keyshawn. I screwed up two guys. I put Keyshawn Johnson as the NFL wide receiver. Darius Johnson and Keyshawn Hall, but apologies for putting those two together. But Keyshawn Hall ends up with 20 points in this game, but a lot of those points came late in this one, and he was struggling for a lot of it. And that's a credit to BYU for slowing him enough to get the W. The other thing I liked about this is BYU, like I said, was not at their best. Defensively, not their best. Rebounding-wise, okay. I think it was 34, even on rebounds, 34-34 for, 40-34 in favor of BYU. But it felt like at times they were struggling on the glass as well in this contest. But the overarching theme I take away from this is a BYU team that it took some time, maybe longer than all of us would have liked it to have, but now at the outset of February, they have found what they needed, and we'll see how it goes, because it doesn't get any easier for BYU. Many of you probably know the schedule better than I do. They have, Arizona coming up on Tuesday night. So it keeps coming at you, and it comes fast, it comes heavy, and BYU's got to be ready for all of it. Now, a word on the final stanza of this game. UCF fans, I saw a few of them trying to have that gotcha moment after the game, the post-game handshake line. Keba Keita had a player in uniform say something to him. He reacted a little bit, but kept moving. Richie Saunders kind of pushed him along. But then some dude who's in street clothes warm-ups, wasn't even playing in this game, it appeared, says something, and Keba's like, I ain't taking none of that. Now, Keba then was ushered off the court, and there's a video of him as he's going into the tunnel. Doing if you're watching the Fortnite L, as what I call it. I can't proclaim to know what Fortnite, I just know that celebration. But here's the thing. If you're trying to get gotcha with a guy slapping an L on his head at you and your fan base, come on, UCF fans, you can't be that Charmin soft, because that's soft. So I don't know what was said. I'm sure that the biggest thing is that they just wanted to make sure nothing came out of it. We actually just saw Arizona State earlier today. Crazy stuff with what's his face, their head coach down at Arizona State, Bobby Hurley. He ushered his players on the bench off the court with like a minute to go. Then his coaches with the final few seconds, and then had just no handshakes. Just absolutely did. And Tommy Lloyd kind of looked at him like, okay. Here's the deal. Post-game handshake lines in fraught situations like that can be pretty intense, but don't be a guy who is in street clothes, who wasn't even playing in the game, and start talking garbage to a player like Keba Keita. He had two massive blocks down the stretch, both of which just volleyball spike. And by the way, I used the term, he had one against Utah, I think. I said he volleyball spiked it. And somebody also mentioned, can you imagine him being like a volleyball, like a pin heat-seeking missile, like just smashing lobs? Apparently, I found out, I'm watching a game, I don't remember which game it was. His brother is a professional volleyball player. So crazy stuff, small world and such. But the bigger thing is, Keba Keita is an emotional guy. And I'm sure he'll take, like you said, he kind of reacted to the one guy saying something to him. But when some dude who's been sitting on the bench says something, I get it. You're already kind of on pins and needles there and the short fuse. And then some dude who has no role in the game starts talking, what to you. I can absolve him a little bit of why he reacted the way he did. And it wasn't him screaming obscenities. It was him throwing up an L on his forehead as he's being ushered off the court. So UCF fans, if you're going to use that as a quote gotcha moment, okay, we need to talk, because that just screams to me that UCF, you can't handle what BYU's got going for you. And oh, by the way, since UCF joined the Big 12 alongside BYU, if I'm not mistaken, BYU in men's basketball and football, BYU's now 5-0 versus the UCF Knights. So take that L and move along. So big win all the same for BYU. Really impressed with them. But like I said, it gets no easier. The road continues to be an absolute just warpath here for BYU. Arizona on Tuesday night, a late game, 9:00 Mountain Time tip-off, national television. But Tommy Lloyd and the Wildcats will come in at 9-1, tied for the Big 12 lead after, you probably saw it earlier today. Crazily enough, Texas Tech goes to Houston and snaps the Cougars' 33-game home win streak in an 82-81 final. JT Toppin got ejected for maybe the most just not wild, but like just ridiculous, flagrant 2 that I have seen in quite some time. It'll be overturned and all that type of stuff. But regardless, the Big 12 is showing itself to be a very dog-eat-dog world out there. And BYU, you keep winning like they are, they're going to find themselves on the right side of the bubble. And in fact, the win today, BYU was among the first 4 out in the Joe Lunardi bracketology going into today. UCF was one of the last 4 in. It wouldn't have surprised me to see those 2 flip-flop places this week when the next bracketology comes out from Joe Lunardi and others. So BYU's handling their business and doing the things that they need to, and it's a really, really nice run here from this Cougar squad. But they got to keep it going. But it gets no easier. It's only going to get harder from here. But the nice part is this team looks like it's learning about itself. It's believing in itself. It's doing everything you want to see from this BYU team at this time of year. Essentially a month to go in the season, and BYU is fighting, scratching, and clawing to get themselves on the right side of that tournament bubble. And right now, they're doing exactly what they need to do, and that's winning basketball games. Will they continue to win at an astronomical clip? TBD. But as long as they handle their business and just continue to stay in the fight, I can respect what they're doing, because they have learned how to win tight games. They've learned how to win games when they're not at their best, like this one against UCF. And that's the mark of a team that is a good basketball team. And I think that's exactly what BYU is right now. All right, that'll do it. I will be back with you guys on a full edition of the podcast on Monday. Those of you watching, don't get mad at me. This is Utah Jazz sweatshirt. I was at the Utah Jazz game earlier today. I've been here, there, and everywhere with my kids' activities on this Saturday, as well as that Jazz game. But we'll have a full edition of the podcast on Monday. Some maybe trailing thoughts after that game against UCF. Also look ahead to the Arizona game. So should be a fun one all the same. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. And once again, thank you for being everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.